Hey, welcome back, fellow metalheads. I'm your host, Mike, and on this episode of our In Conversation With series, I chat with a badass musician from our local Vancouver metal scene who is seeing success in both her current band and online personal brand. Claine Lamb plays guitar in the progressive death metal band, the Hallowed Catharsis, and has built a solid online community through the Claine's World YouTube and Twitch channels. Here is where you'll find some cool content about music, horror movies, and a ton of funny banter between herself and husband, Dean Lamb from fellow tech death band, Archspire. Tune in as we chat about getting into metal in second grade, dealing with stage fright, future THC music, and why new media channels are a key to artists' future success. Cue the riffs. So welcome back, everybody, to the GWN Metal Podcast. Today I have a very special guest, and it was also a special request from someone close to me. So today we have Claine from the Hallowed Catharsis with us. How are you doing today?
Hey, thank you so much for having me. I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing very well among these times, but yeah, I'm really looking forward to our conversation. You're actually the first guest that I've had on the podcast that is from Vancouver as well.
Cool. Local homies represent.
Oh yeah, exactly. And so we're going to touch on a couple of different things today, including your work with the Hallowed Catharsis, how that's looking like, your work as well on YouTube and Twitch, which is something very interesting. And then, just, how you got into metal and your experience as a musician.
Sweet. Yeah, I'm stoked to chat. Get to talk all about me.
Exactly. Yeah, and so one of the things I love to start with everybody, just so that, people that are listening get a better sense of your background, is how you got into metal in the first place. So let's go all the way back. How did that start?
Okay, so I always credit my friend in elementary school, Laura, for getting me into metal because she showed me Slipknot in grade 2, and I don't know how she found them. I don't know. But she showed me them, and we just thought it was the coolest shit ever. So from there, we would just like jam out to that all the time. And then throughout elementary school, I don't know, I think I was using like the LimeWire album downloads to just kind of spam download lots of stuff. So I found like Judas Priest and like, more normal rock stuff like AC/DC and Pantera and Queen. And then I found Avenged Sevenfold, which quite embarrassingly for me, I was insanely obsessed with. Like,
Okay.
The level of obsession for Avenged Sevenfold in my elementary years cannot be overexpressed. I don't know if you've ever heard of what was it called, Pixo?
I can't say I have, no.
Pixo was this kind of like make your own blog, make your own website kind of thing that had a real heyday in the early 2000s, and I made an Avenged Sevenfold website, and it was very extensive, and that was just dozens of hours of my own time that was put into it. Surely it was purely out of obsession, so...
So we're talking like posters all over your bedroom, kind of like trying to emulate the look, all that stuff?
Actually, so in elementary school, the only posters I had in my bedroom would have been Lord of the Rings posters and one Interview with the Vampire poster.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. But definitely wearing a lot of the band shirts. I didn't wear any makeup in elementary school, so I couldn't do that like full emo or scene look, and I didn't convince my mom to let me dye my hair black until grade 8, so I was just looking like a super dorky kid with glasses and braces, and I talked like this, and I wore turtlenecks. Yeah, and then at the end of grade 6, so I have an older sister, and she also kind of got into alternative music. So at the end of grade 6, she showed me a Cannibal Corpse song, and that like changed my life in that moment, because up until that, I sort of thought like stuff like Slipknot and Avenged Sevenfold was the craziest music I'll like ever hear in my life, probably. Yeah. And then I heard that, and I was like, oh, so there's like way crazier shit. Yeah. And I just need to find it. So then grade 7, I found Cradle of Filth, and grade 8, I found Dimmu Borgir and Behemoth, and then grade 9, I found Necrophagist and Decapitated, and that's, I would say, grade 9, kind of end of grade 9 is where I finally found my footing in metal, like really solidly.
Yeah, damn. I definitely did not start that early. I can say that much. Yeah, but I do remember like the LimeWire days, how like revolutionary that was to find new stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was insane. For me, the first song I downloaded, I remember it. I still remember it. It's I still think it's like a good moment. Like I'm not embarrassed by it, but it was Evanescence Bring Me to Life.
Oh.
Yeah.
You know, nothing bad about that. Me and my sister both are guilty of listening to that and having CDs and stuff. Oh, also shout out to MTV. Did you ever watch it was the punk show, and then was it Much Loud or something was the metal version?
That's the one.
I found so many bands that way, including Dimmu Borgir. That's they played the Progenies of the Great Apocalypse music video on there, and I was like, whoa, this band is the shit.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always awesome, like, thinking about those early days, because, as you said before, right, like, every time that you think you've reached the pinnacle of, like, this is the heaviest shit, there's something else on the horizon, and you're like, I don't understand how this is possible.
Yeah,
right?
I would love to be able to re-experience some of those first discoveries. You know, like, the first time I heard Decapitated, or the first time I heard Necrophagist, or the first time I heard Dimmu Borgir, those were like crazy monumental moments in my life that like changed me and who I am and what I think defines me, and I just wish I could re-experience hearing it for the first time.
Yeah, and so this is interesting because, you know, those moments, I guess, you know, led you to want to pursue a career in music. And so from what I understand, you actually are classically trained, correct?
Yeah. Back on that super nerdy kid bullshit.
Okay.
I have always really loved classical music, first and foremost. And when I was a kid, that was all I really listened to until Laura showed me some heavier stuff, and I was especially drawn to Mozart and this idea of this child prodigy, because I really wanted to be like that. So I asked my parents for piano lessons, and I went through the RCM curriculum, only did one exam because my anxiety was crazy messed for that, but I went through the RCM curriculum, and then kind of started picking up guitar in my teenage years once I started really getting into metal, and was much more drawn to the guitar, even though I still play piano now and I still love classical music and I love to play classical piano. I just kind of wanted to also play guitar. The more I heard metal music, I was like, man, that guitar just seems pretty fucking awesome.
Yeah, and it's interesting because like that background in classical music, I'm sure, you know,
it helped also kind of like broaden the horizons of what guitar could do.
Oh, for sure. And like, so more recently, I went to university for classical guitar, and it's awesome how many things I have been able to apply to metal or just technique in general, or like my own compositions for metal. I love that idea of kind of taking classical ideas and incorporating it into metal, like a lot like Yngwie Malmsteen, but way more brutal is what I want.
Yeah. And we're going to talk about, your band in a second here. But I feel that, when you're looking at like tech death, for example, there's the brutality of it, of course, but then like what amazes me all the time is just how someone is able to craft like songs in that way, because it really is something that you can paint with all the colors and everything is applicable, like everything goes.
Yes. I love your color analogy because I really like to think about music in that way, like in terms of color palettes. And yeah, so I like that you used that analogy.
Now, one of the things that I was curious about is, when, like, so you went to school for music, obviously you had to like play and stuff like that throughout that, but when was that moment that you decided that you wanted to be in a band?
Well, much younger, honestly, and it was really just the anxiety that hindered the pursuit of that for a long time. Pretty much as soon as I started getting into metal, I idealized this idea of playing in a group and performing that. I just thought it seemed so awesome, and especially once I got into the more extreme stuff. So again, like the end of grade 9, grade 10, like really finding Necrophagist and Decapitated was like, okay, so that is like exactly what I want to do, is be able to play guitar like that, and hopefully do vocals like that as well. Definitely not there on the vocal front even still today, but back then I would have loved to be in a band, and I always dreamt about it. I was just way too scared. So I would say like probably from when I was 15, I was thinking about that like every day.
Wow. What was the first band that you joined then?
So in high school, sometimes friends would come over and like we'd get really stoned or we'd be drinking, and I would try to jam a little bit, but for the most part it was a bit too nerve-wracking for me. And then some buddies of mine, they were forming this band, and I was going to join, and then two of my friends who are much better guitarists than me both wanted to join, so then I was like, okay, I'll play bass. And I jammed with them a couple times, but again, I just like couldn't handle the nerves of playing. So I would say that wasn't really a band experience, but I jammed a couple times and we wrote some music together, and that was cool. And then more officially, I would say when I moved here and I was still in music school, at my husband's jam spot, there's a bunch of other bands, and there was this old school death metal band called Acidic Death, and he was buddies with my husband Dean was buddies with their drummer Scott, and he knew that they had lost a guitarist, so I kind of started chatting with them, and then I auditioned for that band, and I was in that band for 8 or 9 months, maybe 10 months or something like that. We played one house show at that super grimy punk house. I can't remember what it's called right now. The in East Van, where some random house shows in basements happen sometimes.
I think I know which one you're talking about. It's like a blue house. That's probably what it's called.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it's the dilapidated blue house.
Yeah.
I know it has a name, but it's I'm forgetting it right now. But yeah, that was really fun, and everyone was super kind to each other. But Scott, the drummer, he needed to take a step back because he just got really overloaded with tons of other projects, and no one wanted to continue without him because he was just like such a integral member. We didn't want to just replace him, so we stopped jamming at that point. Yeah, that was my first real band experience, I'd say.
That's really cool. Yeah, because I wanted to see like whether or not death metal was the first type of music you wanted to play, right, in terms of a band setting. Because I saw that you were also part of this other band where you played piano called Orchestry.
Yeah, I've been in a few projects that are definitely not death metal guitar, even though that's my goal. Yeah, I also played in another progressive band playing piano called Mahanta around the same time, but Orchestry, we were jamming a lot more often. I was in Orchestry for quite a while as well. Maybe a year and a half or something, and I would say that's sort of like a progressive rock kind of style. Roger Cranford writes all the music for Orchestry, and it is really fucking cool and interesting, and he's an awesome guy, and it was super fun for me to play. But it was very time consuming. Like, the music was quite technical, and I just really wanted to focus with guitar and death metal guitar especially, so I eventually parted ways with that band as well.
And that brings us to the present day. So the Hallowed Catharsis is a band I saw live for the first time 2 years ago. So I believe you were in there already.
I would have been in there, yes.
Yeah.
Do you know what show that was? Who else was playing?
I believe it was the Death Miss Festivus.
Oh, okay. That would have been my first show with THC, as a matter of fact.
Oh, no way. Okay.
Yeah, that was my first show with them.
Damn. All right. How are you feeling that in that moment?
Fucking terrified. My whole band makes fun of me because, yeah, again, touching on this anxiety thing, I get so fucking nervous to play in front of anyone. So I had diarrhea like 9 times. I was just living in the green room bathroom up until we played. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a constant joke if we're playing a show, or even if we have a show coming up. It's like, how many times did you go to the bathroom today, Claine?
Yeah. Damn. It's something that happens, I think, like with a lot of musicians in general for the longest time, even if they've been playing for a while, like that anxiety. Have you figured out a way to help calm you down? Still work on it.
Yeah, it just gets better the more I do it. And that's all I can really say as my sage advice to anyone else that also shares crippling anxiety about this kind of stuff, is that you just have to do it, and it doesn't go away, but it just gets slightly easier. But that said, when I was in music school, that was where the first time I really had to actually perform in front of people, because there was, most of the time you can back out. Like if I was trying to jam with friends or whatever, I would just eventually bail on the situation. But in music school, at the end of every semester, you have to perform in the auditorium in front of the rest of the music students and a bunch of the teachers, and then you also have to do a jury performance in front of the adjudicators, and there's a bit more technical stuff involved, and both of those performances are 100% mandatory, and if you miss either of them, it's an automatic fail.
Well, okay.
So that was the first time it was like, okay, I literally have to do this. I have absolutely no choice. So I got beta blockers from my doctor, which is a medication it's like a blood thinner medication, but people use it for performance anxiety all the time because it slows down your heart rate. So it reduces the fight or flight effects. So I took that for the entire time I was in music school, every performance, and then that first show I played with Acidic Death, I also took them, and that was the last time I took them. So that show with THC, I didn't use them, and the shows I played with orchestra and the shows I played with the Persian wedding band Bakara, I didn't use any beta blockers.
Damn. Yeah. No, that's a big step from my understanding, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you would advise, like if someone that's listening either knows someone or is dealing with that too, but they still want to play in a band?
It's not as bad as you imagine, I would also say. So even though I get crazy nervous before shows, or even like I was a music teacher the last few years, and I would get crazy panic attacks, so nervous just to go to work. The idea to play guitar or piano in front of one like child who is a beginner, even that makes me super nervous, or like talking to their parents or anything. So I would be like super stressed out, nervous to go to work. But whether it was teaching that lesson or playing that show, once you actually start doing the thing, it's truly not as scary as you imagine. Like when I actually start playing a show, I really, really, really enjoy it. It's just that build up until I get to start that first note or whatever that feels really crippling sometimes, but I always have a blast once I get to start playing.
Yeah, for sure. And it shows, right? Because I've seen, so yeah, as going back to the first time I saw the band in general, right? So your first time playing with them, I think I've seen you guys play only twice so far. And yeah, I wouldn't have guessed at all, because everybody, I guess, when they go on stage, they step into that extra persona, right? Of like, we're here to play metal and just have fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and my bandmates know I get really nervous, so a lot of times we give each other hugs or whatever. We really try to like amp each other up in as best way we can, and during the show we're all like looking at each other, and I think I'm always having a blast, but I think if I ever was really getting in my head, that expression would probably show on my face, and I'm sure one of my bandmates would try to do something to help me out of that situation. So I feel safe with them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I wanted to ask about that, right? Because you mentioned earlier that you started auditioning for some bands, and when you started auditioning and you found the Hallowed Catharsis, what really stood out to you about them?
So I saw THC play at 333 the summer of, when would this have been? I'm not sure, maybe it's 2018 or something. They were playing a show at 333 with my friend's Proto Sequence, which is a band from Edmonton.
Mm-hmm.
So I was going out to see them because they're my buddies, and I had asked them to take some of my paintings on tour, and they could just sell them at the merch booth or whatever, try to get my name as a painter out there. So I went to the show, brought some paintings, and THC was playing, and I thought that they were a rad band, and they had a cool presence, and they only had one guitarist playing. Mm-hmm. So that's sort of something that immediately stuck out to me, like, this is a cool band. They all seem like rad folks, and they only have one guitarist, so maybe they are looking for a second guitarist, or maybe they would like a second guitarist. And then I did an art trade with Lita. I gave her one of my paintings, and she gave me a comic, and we chatted for a while, and she just seemed really rad, super nice and down to earth. So I eventually messaged her on Instagram a few weeks later, or maybe a month later or something, and just asked, like, hey, if you guys are looking for a second guitarist, could I audition? And that's how it began.
Wow. Yeah, and that's super cool. It seems like, from that exchange, right, that initial thing, you saw that click, right, between all the members and yourself. So I'm not sure how easy that is to come by.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. Like it just seems sort of like a serendipitous thing, it's like the right the right culmination of events or things to come together. And also, like, one thing that I think is very unique to our band that has benefited me a lot is actually the bassist Michael. He joined at the exact same time as me. So we had like 2 new members joining the same band. So there's kind of this like camaraderie between me and Michael, rather than, I think it might be kind of hard in a situation where you have only original members and then one person joining.
Right.
Versus me and Michael getting to join together. And Michael and I live very close. So when we were jamming, him and I would carpool together. So we get to like chat to each other and stuff, just us two, before we get to jam. So we sort of developed like our own friendship as like the new members. And I think that was a really cool and unique thing as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's awesome. And, I wanted to comment on the success so far from you being in the band, especially in 2020. So that saw the release of the 4th EP for THC. And so that one was called Killowner. And around the same time, the band got signed to Lacerated Enemy Records, which is pretty sweet. So I was curious to know a little bit about that experience for you as being part of the band, releasing something during, the pandemic, what the response was, and then how the crew got to start playing under the record label.
Oh yeah. Okay. So there's a lot of things to cover here, I think. I would say that overall the release there are like really awesome things about it, but at the same time it's kind of bittersweet for us. So when I joined THC, all of Killowner was already written, but they were in the process of recording it. So I recorded half of the guitar with Kyle. He has recording experience, so we just did that at his house. And so we were getting all that ready and kind of thinking like, okay, maybe we should try to release this on a label this time. So pretty sure Kevin did the bulk of the work for this, but Kevin, the drummer, he was getting like press packages ready to send out to different labels to see if any label would be interested in releasing our album. So we had a few different ones kind of on our radar that we felt fit with us and might, enjoy our kind of vibe. So Lacerated Enemy was the one that also agreed that we sort of fit the bill and they liked our sound. And then what was cool is that, so we were the first Canadian band to be signed by Lacerated Enemy, but then very shortly after, they also signed Proto-Sequence, who I mentioned earlier. So we're the Canadian Lacerated Enemy representation is THC and Proto-Sequence, which I think is really awesome because like all of us are very long-time friends. Like I'm originally from Edmonton, and even like the Proto-Sequence dudes and the rest of the THC dudes have known each other for a super long time. So it's just like awesome homies being on a label together. So that was all really exciting. And then us and Proto-Sequence had an entire Canadian tour booked for last April because we were releasing albums at pretty much the same time. So we had this whole tour booked that was supposed to start on April 1st. And so it was our album release and their album release tour. And then obviously that didn't happen because of the pandemic. So we all think of it as like the absolute worst April Fool's joke ever, since the first show was supposed to be on the 1st. So that's where that bittersweetness comes in, because it was obviously super exciting to get on a label. And the album has also been like really, really well received. People have really enjoyed it. But we didn't get that album release tour experience that we were all really looking forward to. And that would have been my first full tour, because I've done like little weekend jaunts or like a week-long thing before, but that would have been the first big boy tour for me. So I was really looking forward to it. So it's a bit upsetting, but overall it's been really positive, and it's been awesome to see how much people like it. It's really, really rad.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the only good thing I can see coming out of this, right, is that when shows do come back online, I guess, if you want to say that, that anticipation now, it's like twofold, right? And I think that we'll see larger crowds going to shows. At least that's my goal, because of that. That lack of a full year, maybe a little bit longer, right, of no shows. So I'd be curious to see, what happens at that point. But yeah, in terms of the reception, I've been keeping my ear on the ground, so to speak, and yeah, a lot of people have really, really liked the release, and I know that there's a lot of themes around like sci-fi and stuff like that, and this particular album also has its own theme. So I was wondering if you could touch on that a little bit, just like in your own words.
Yeah. I like to think of it, or I guess probably anyone that's read the story would think of it as like taking the most fucked up elements of the domestication of animals that like we have done, and then flipping the script so aliens come down and capture humans and subject us to hundreds of years of really strange genetic mutations, for the better or for the worse of our own, physical and mental states. And just kind of like thinking about the most brutal aspects of pets, and then people are the pets, and there's like a way stronger, more intelligent force out there, that forces that upon us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm sure there's going to be like weirder shit too in the next release as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I wanted to touch on that too, because I know it was recently kind of like not under the radar, but it was announced, not super officially, that you and the crew started working on new music, and I was wondering, like, what could you tell us about the stuff that you're working on without giving too much away, and like what's the progression from Killowner to what the next release is going to be like?
Well, I think the most stark thing, aside from the fact you have 2 new members for this release, so you got 2 different types of, desires for musical sound and stuff in there, but this will be a full-length album, so it's really allowing us to elaborate on ideas and just like take our time with things, and have like higher contrast in sections and stuff. Like for the most part, Killowner is just kind of like 14 minutes in your face intensity, so the next release is gonna play with more contrast, I'd say, and yeah, you have 2 different people's color palettes coming in as well.
Awesome. And right now there is no like specific dates or anything that you're thinking the release will be available?
Unfortunately not. Yeah, we don't really know. Like we don't want to do a remote release, right? Like I have full recording capabilities, and so does Kyle, and so does Kevin. So we could, in theory, like all record ourselves individually and kind of start to put that together to get it out faster. But none of us really want to do that. So as long as all these restrictions are in place with the pandemic, I think it's going to be pretty slow going for us. But I would hope that we would have it done and ready in less than a year. I would really hope,
Yeah. But you touched on something important there too. I think that that experience of going into the studio together and then, kind of vibing off each other as you play it and record it at the same time, I think that is an important experience as well. So yeah, the fact of kind of waiting it out a little bit longer to be able to do that, yeah, I think that there's a possibility that it'll only make the release that much more interesting for you guys, and it might even come across in terms of the texture of how the record turns out.
Yeah, and we were all writing together in the jam spot, and we want to be able to write the rest of the album that way. You know, there's a certain element of like we're kind of brushing up on solo ideas or like little finicky things at home, but in terms of like writing an entire song, that's something that we really enjoy doing all together, every single member, and so we haven't been able to jam in a super long time, of course. So yeah, we're kind of waiting on writing the rest of the songs.
But in the meantime, right, as you said, kind of jamming, you know, in your own place and everything, you have a YouTube channel, and you also stream some stuff on Twitch, which I find very fascinating because there's not many artists that do that, at least from what I can tell. And so I'm curious to know what inspired you to start a YouTube channel in the first place, and then, you know, like what was kind of like the thought process behind where you wanted it to go?
Well, so YouTube is another thing that I wanted to do for a crazy long time and was always just way too nervous to do. I can recall when I was when I used to work at this music store called Gandharva Loka. It's like a world music store on Granville Island, and I had written this like journal entry thing because I was trying to set goals, and I had read somewhere if you write a journal entry that's like a future date, like I will have achieved all this stuff by such and such date, then you're more likely to do it. So I have a journal entry somewhere saying that in December 2014, I will have a thriving YouTube music channel.
Okay.
So if you go look at my YouTube channel, no, it wasn't. I was not putting out any videos at that time. There's like a couple really old piano videos that I had just recorded on a phone and put up or something, but I was not making a dedicated channel. So there was like a really conscious idea that I really wanted to do YouTube in 2014, and I didn't start actually pursuing YouTube seriously until December. Not just this past December, but the December before that, so December
2019?
2019, yeah. Sorry, years have lost all meaning to me. I don't know.
We're stuck in a time vortex.
Yeah, what day, month, year are we in? I don't even know, apparently.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I've just been doing it a bit over a year now, consistently on YouTube, and it's been really fun. I really like it.
Yeah, for sure. And this is kind of where, you know, I was introduced to this side of, or this possibility, right, of like what artists can do during the time of the pandemic, but also just in general to kind of play around with ideas. And so for people that haven't tuned in yet, you know, you do some really interesting like guitar covers where you talk about some of the theory behind it. You do some sight reading stuff, which is crazy to me because I don't even understand how you do that. And you do some collaborations, which I thought was really cool with some other people in the scene here in Vancouver. I'm curious to know, like, when you're doing some of these live, like Twitch streams, or you're kind of thinking about your content, you know, what are some of the things that you want people to get out of it?
I just want people to have a good time. That's the only goal is, you know, if someone, especially when it comes to like a live stream, it means so much to me. The comments I've had or people in the chat that are like, you know, I was having a really shit day or I've been having a shit week or whatever and just kind of bummed, and I came in and I hung out with the community on here and I feel way better and I had a great time, and like just that sense of community and that you're actually like bringing happiness to someone's life, or you made them laugh for even a second or something, that is the goal. I don't need anyone to think I'm good at guitar or whatever. I mean, my Twitch especially is built around me making mistakes, so it's definitely not about that. It's really just about that community and just having a good time, especially in this pandemic age. It helped me a lot too, with still feeling like I had friends and had something to do, and totally filled the void of shows and stuff, because a lot of it sort of feels that kind of way. It definitely filled a void for me, so I hope it did for others as well.
Yeah, for sure. For example, like my sister, right? She's the one that, watches your stuff constantly. That's kind of how, I kind of keep updated with stuff. So I definitely see that, this idea of live streaming, you helping others, but also helping yourself through that community aspect is really important. And I only feel that it'll continue gaining popularity in terms of like artists trying to do that for their own communities and stuff like that. So
yeah, totally.
Yeah. One question I had, what's the deal with BBCs? I'm sure some people are like, what the fuck is this guy talking about?
Oh my god, dude.
Explain.
Okay. Can we mention marijuana on this? Is that acceptable?
Oh yeah, we can do whatever we want. It's fine.
Okay, so just because I think it kind of is somewhat important to the story here. So, if and when I am smoking weed, I go out on my street corner and just sit on this rock and, just chill outside. And for quite a while, there were lots of crows coming around, because people say they like shiny things. So I think they were attracted to the reflect on my lighter or on my pipe or something, because they would always get really close when I was sitting out there. And I just started observing their antics, and I realized that they're so funny, but they're also so beautiful. Okay. And I just like really started falling in love with crows, and they just bring me so much joy. So I started bringing food out for them on really hot days. I bring them bowls of water and stuff. Now I feed them like every day on walks and whatever. But basically I was sitting out there one day and I was smoking up, and just popped in my head, I was like, big beautiful crow. And I was like, oh, I could start calling crows BBCs. And because I was stoned, I thought it was like the absolute funniest thing ever. So like an insane person, I was standing out there like crying with laughter because I thought it was so funny. And for sure people already thought I was insane, because there have been times where I'm like standing out there and I'm like tapping the lighter on the pipe, like different patterns and stuff, because I think that the crow is tapping their beak on the roof or the fence or whatever. I'm pretty sure they have, but Dean thinks I am a lunatic. So for sure people think I'm insane, but I thought it was super funny. I came in and I told Dean about that joke, and then I said it on one of the YouTube videos we do together, and I just think it's super funny. So I just like keep pushing it because I really want it to catch on. So basically its original is Big Beautiful Crow, but it's big beautiful anything, right? So a lot of the times I will also say Big Beautiful Carcharodon, and that's for sharks. You can also just have Big Beautiful Corvids. And so I started calling the sort of like my Twitch community and my YouTube community is the Big Beautiful Corvidae.
Okay.
Whales are Big Beautiful Whales. Like I just anything like that I think is really funny. And then I also I started calling seagulls PAWGs for fat ass white gulls.
Oh man.
Yeah. So yeah, it's really just me being an idiot and thinking it's funny and then trying to push my joke on everyone else.
Oh, trust me, it's funny. It's just I'm thinking about like, you know, talking about it as you're walking down the street, you know, and then someone
Oh my
like
God.
randomly hears it and is like, "What the fuck?" Like,
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
so you know what? It's become so standard for me that seeing BBC News or something crop up on my YouTube is straight up weird because
Yeah.
for a fraction of a second my brain is like, "Wait, why are they talking about crows?"
right.
And then I'm like, "No, wait, it's not what it is." And then there's also like to me it's really funny because like my parents watch my videos and stuff, so they will say BBC. And obviously they're not fully in on the joke.
Right.
But it's super funny to me. Like my mom bought some of my merch and she's like, "I got the BBC merch."
Telling all her friends at a dinner party.
Oh, yeah, I mean who knows? She may be saying it to others. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I sort of hope not because I really don't want anyone to ever fill her in on the full extent of the joke because she probably won't enjoy it so much anymore.
Right. Oh man, no, that's a good story. I was so curious about it because it keeps coming up like in the videos that I saw. Like I understood the joke before you explained it. I just wanted it to have more clarity. But yeah. It's good. It's a good one.
Okay. Yeah, I was thinking for a while, and this was kind of an idea Kevin had given me that I've been thinking about for a while, because at first he was like, "You should make an OnlyFans called BBC TV."
Oh geez.
But then it would just be videos of me feeding the crows outside, because there's a bunch, because I live in North Burnaby. I'm super close to the Still Creek Rookery, so I live around a lot of crows. So it's great for me, but I've thought about, like, you know, I could make a Pornhub account or something called BBC TV, and then I could title the videos like 10 BBCs and 1 PAWG, but then it's just 10 crows and 1 seagull.
Oh man. Yeah.
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 Hey, whatever works.
Yeah, this is, I guess, like these are the things you need to do to find entertainment in pandemic life, I guess.
Yeah. That's awesome. And so I encourage anybody that's listening to check out Claine's videos. It's Claine's World, right? On YouTube?
Yes, and same on Twitch as well.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the jokes will make also a little bit more sense there. Yeah. And so I wanted to the last thing I want to touch on when it comes to like the YouTube and Twitch stuff is around so like a most recent series that you did. I think it's still going on if I'm not mistaken, but it's you put yourself a challenge to do compositions within like a couple days. And I believe, you know, the reason for that was also, you know, again, just like spark more creativity, kind of push yourself as an artist, and, you know, keep that you know, muscle going. And so I'm curious to know, like, now that you've gone through it, what was something that you learned from it?
It was like super rewarding and really fun. And I did surprise myself with like what I came up with and what I was able to do. And I think the main thing it showed me is that I do have enough energy or like mental capacity to do something, because a lot of the time I get really bogged down with like, oh my God, I have so many projects on the go right now. And I just get super overloaded at the idea of how many things I need to do that I don't even start one of them. And so I just constantly have like all these things in my mind of things that I really want to do, and then I never end up doing. And that really showed me like, okay, if I really want to do it, I can. And I can get it done probably in a day. You know, a lot of those projects, I would say they're unfinished, but I got the bulk of it done in a day, and it was really awesome for me because the vast majority of the challenges I came up with was stuff that I've just wanted to do for a super long time. So getting to do them felt really good. Like I finally got to put that check mark on a long-awaited to-do list. So I sort of have kept it going a little bit, and now I have this loose life philosophy that I call live life by the jar.
Okay, nice.
So I kept the jar that has all those compositional goals in there, and then I added a bunch more. So on days where I'm feeling kind of lazy or like I don't know what I want to do or I feel like I don't want to do anything, I'll just go draw something from the jar and force myself to do it. And then I feel way better at the end of it because then I've been productive about something. And some of the things in there are super basic. It's like clean the bathroom. You know, they're not necessarily all just music challenges, or some are just like practice challenges, and some are again really crazy composition challenges like the ones I was doing in the videos. But it's nice because I'm the type of person that kind of I constantly weigh my self-worth with my productivity level. So if I get in this mode of like, oh my God, I'm too tired to do anything, or I kind of feel like garbage, and then I stop being as productive, then I feel worse. And then it just kind of, you know, it just sort of spirals out of control. So if I just pull something from the jar, it's like, okay, I have no choice. I got to do this thing. And then I know I'll feel way better at the end of it because I've done something productive. And then I can say, hey, I did something today.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, with a lot of things in life, music included, it's about momentum, I find. And so this is kind of one of those ways that you found, you know, that works for you. And I think that's really cool because, you know, for people that are listening, I'm sure they've experienced that at some point in 2020. And obviously we're not out of the situation. So having, you know, some newer ideas on how to maintain that positivity, that you know, creativity and those things, I think that's a really cool idea that you had. And so I'm hoping that yeah, people that are listening, like they can take that and practice it for themselves. I think that'd be really cool.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I really want people to try a challenge like that of their own, whether they're a musician or not, or just, you know, want to develop a new skill or something. Like I wasn't really inspired to do that series from this video I saw at this channel called Nerdforge. I don't know if you've ever heard of that channel. But it was actually a painting video. One of the members from this Nerdforge couple, Martina, they both make like amazing, cool, nerdy shit all the time, but she's like a super rad painter, but a lot of her projects don't have anything to do with painting. So she went out into a cabin for 5 days or a week, totally isolated, and did a different challenge every day. And it was just like, you have to get it done that day. It doesn't matter if it's going to take you 14 hours to finish that painting or whatever. You just have to do it. And I just thought it was so cool. And she was doing that because she really wanted to focus on painting again and kind of like reignite that interest for her. And so ever since I saw it, I was like, okay, I have to find a way to apply this to composition for myself. I just thought it was so cool. So whether you want to like learn a new language or just become a better cook or like, yeah, draw more or play bass or something, like I think there's a way to kind of adapt this challenge to really any kind of facet in life. And I think it's, you'll surprise yourself at the end of it.
A lot of what we're all living through right now, I think, is a test of our adaptation, right? And, you know, one of the things that I always like to ask people that I'm talking to about music right now is like, what are the effects, medium term, long term, of the pandemic, right? Obviously, on the surface, it's, less income for touring artists. Fans are not able to go to the shows and stuff like that. But, from your perspective, like, how do you think the scene, at least let's say here in Vancouver, is going to change from what's been going on?
It's super hard to say, man. Like, I think you touched on a really optimistic possibility where shows will potentially have higher than past attendance because people have been so starved for that kind of experience. So there is a possibility when shows open back up that they're better than ever and have higher attendance and stuff like that. But there's also like the more pessimistic possibility where people are scared. So even when that stuff starts opening up, you have even lower attendance than before. And I really just have no idea, which way that pendulum is going to go. It's super hard to say. And yeah, like just the idea of like more than 10 people being in a room seems so strange to me now. So like it's hard to even imagine. And I don't know how it's going to go, but I think that this sort of like online presence and community of musicians playing in live streams, whether that's on YouTube or Twitch or whatever, I think that is going to become more and more popular and more and more sort of the way for people to connect with musicians and artists and people that they just enjoy and find a community because, there's new variants coming out and it might just be that COVID just becomes like our new version of the flu, and it may be really hard for society to ever go back to exactly how it was. I'm not really sure if bands will ever return to touring like 6 to 7 months out of the year. I don't really know if that's going to be a feasible thing anymore or if that's going to be something people want to do. So I think turning to the online medium for that kind of like music performance stuff is going to become even more popular.
Yeah, I can see that possibility happening as well. When it comes to like fans and stuff like that, obviously, we're talking about engaging them in different ways through the social media channels and everything like that. But let's say like outside of someone going to like the Bandcamp page and like purchasing the album, what are other ways like you would think that metal fans can contribute to their artists that they're interested in during these times right now to continue their support?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think, as you said, like you can just go on Bandcamp and buy an album or something, or buy some merch. And I think like digital album sales, I think, are really important for a band, and I think more fans should consider it as a way to really support bands that they really love. Because I know you can just go on Spotify or YouTube or whatever and listen to all the music you like. And lots of people don't even have CD players anymore, so buying a physical CD is kind of like, what's the point? But you can buy a digital album and not necessarily even download it. Like, if you want to keep listening to it on YouTube or Spotify, you can think of purchasing the digital album just as like a, hey, I really like what you do and I'm showing support anyways. Like I've done that for a bunch of bands that I really like, actually, that I just went and bought their digital album because I was like, I know this money goes straight to them and I just really enjoy their music and I want to sort of like send a message that I want them to keep making music. So I think that's a major one. And then like Instagram and YouTube and stuff, just finding those bands you really like and commenting. Like for me on YouTube, I try my best to respond in some way to every comment, and I do read them. So, if you're leaving positive comments somewhere to people you look up to or appreciate or whatever, they're reading it and they are super appreciative of it. So even just sending that message that's like, hey, I love what you do, or this made me smile today or something, can be really meaningful. And even more musicians are turning to Twitch as well. Like in the time that I've been on there, I saw Keith Merrow joined, Scott Carstairs from Fallujah, Ash Pearson from Revocation, Justin McKinney from Zenith Passage. Like so many metal musicians are getting on there, especially in the last 6 months or so.
Mm-hmm.
So there's just more and more ways to connect with those people you really look up to.
Yeah, for sure. I think what we're seeing right now, and I think you put it really, really well, is that change of mindset, right? Of I support my artist this way, right? And so looking at, let's say, Bandcamp, it's yes, buying the digital album, but almost also in a way kind of reframing it. It's not just the digital album anymore, right? It's, hey, I really, really like what you do, keep going, right? And reframing what it means. And then also, building up community in social platforms. So we're seeing kind of a restructuring of how that works. And I'm sure we'll see a higher adoption rate among fans and stuff like that, as well as musicians using these platforms. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it's really meaningful for me when someone buys a digital album, because I know that you can download an album on Spotify, so you can still listen to it if you don't have Wi-Fi or something, and I know that you can just go listen to that album. So to me, if someone purchases a digital album, it's really just a hey, thanks kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure. And in the show notes for the podcast, I'm going to link up, the Bandcamp page for THC as well. So it makes it easier for people to check that out.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. And so just the last bit here, Claine, is I want to kind of give you the stage to talk a little bit more about, what is the future looking like for you and your projects and a few other things. So just starting with that, what can people expect from your stuff in the next couple months? What are you working on?
Well, I've been taking a bit of a break from the live streaming. I stopped after my Christmas stream, and my plan was just to take January off. And then very impromptu, I decided that I was going to audition to go back to music school. So I've been very swamped with that audition process. So I was thinking I was going to get back to streaming in February, but I really want to get this all this audition stuff out of the way. So I am going to go back to streaming, just not quite yet, but definitely in the next few months, because I really miss streaming. Like I was saying, it filled such a void for me, and I truly feel like that community we made on there, all of those people are my legitimate friends, and I straight up love them all. So I miss them like crazy, and I can't wait to go back on there. So for sure, streaming is gonna come up again. And the last couple months on there, I started doing a horror movie trivia night, and that was so much fun for me. So I really want to get that going again. Very low-key stuff in the works that I hope, maybe within the next year can be looking at a release, is that I'm working on, kind of starting to work on a horror short film. So that's something that hopefully people that like what I do can look forward to. Just going to keep plugging away at the YouTube videos as well, and hopefully release some of my own music, and then also more THC music. Hopefully play some shows real shows sooner or later. Otherwise, it'll just stay on the Twitch world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And I wanted to see if you wanted to give a shout out to any particular bands or anybody in the industry so people could check those out as well.
Okay. 𝐓𝐡𝐞 is fucking amazing. They're one of my favorite bands for sure. I love them. So if you don't know them, check out 𝐓𝐡𝐞. If you're feeling kind of down, just throw on some Deicide, man.
I thought you were going to go like black metal for a second. It's like, nope, Deicide.
No, Deicide is my it's my feel good music. It's also like my party music. If I want to just like get in that good mood, I just throw in some Deicide. Something about it.
Mm-hmm.
So even though they're majorly old band, I'm sure everyone knows about them. I think a lot of people because they're a lot older, I get lots of comments on my Deicide covers like, "Oh, I haven't listened to Deicide in so long. I forgot how sick they are," kind of thing. So if you're kind of sleeping on Deicide, I recommend revisiting. Who else can I shout out? Actually, if we go into black metal, I did find this Dutch black metal band 𝐸𝑡𝑠wins, and not only is their name entertaining for me to say, I thought they were pretty good. So I'll shout them out, and I'll shout out your sister Ellie, because she's super rad, and I appreciate all her support. And you can
nice.
tell her, you can tell her that I promise a donut Q&A is coming one of these days.
Oh, she will definitely be hearing this podcast, so I'm sure right now her little heart's like jumping out of her chest. Just, oh, she talked about me. Sorry, Elle.
That's awesome.
All right, and so the last question. This is how I like to end all my podcasts. So, Claine, what does metal music mean to you personally? No pressure.
You like to end with a heavy hitter, eh?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big one, man. Because for me, like, I've always wanted to play music. Like when I was a kid, and I really wanted to play piano, and then as I became a teenager, and I wanted to play guitar. That has just always been a part of who I am. And, if we go back to me in grade 2 and hearing Slipknot for the first time, like it's those bands that you hear that you're like, holy shit, this music is so amazing, and it connects with you on such just like a monumental level, the way it makes you feel. And without metal music, I just like... I don't really feel like I'd be here, man. Like, music is absolutely everything to me. And if I can't listen to music, and if I can't play music, and I can't write music, there's really, like, nothing for me. It is like the sole thing for me. I like video games, and I like movies as well. But for me, one of the biggest things that I really enjoy about certain movies and certain video games is the music. So whether it's metal or just more broadly music, it's so important to me, and it has brought me so much joy and fulfillment. And I implore people, even, whether you want to be some crazy technical player or not, if you don't play an instrument, I implore you to pick something up, because the joy of learning, and especially connecting that to music, when you really like a song and you can work on something for months, and then you can kind of play along to that song that you really like, there's such a... Yeah, it's just so meaningful, So it's it's my whole life is, I guess, what I'm trying to say. So metal means absolutely everything to me.
Awesome. Well, that's a great answer. And yeah, I'm sure people that have been listening this long, there's a lot of stuff to digest in this particular episode, and I hope they take some awesome points from it. So thanks again for your time today, and I'll make sure to link all your stuff in the description so people can check it out. And yeah, we'll definitely chat again another time in the future.
Awesome, for sure. Thank you so much for having me. I had a great time.
No problem. All right. Well, that was Claine from the Hallowed Catharsis.
Thanks. Bye.